guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to do something just a little bit different today. I had a lot of requests for a Scottish Highland Cow. I didn't even know what one was until I started getting these requests. You can do him with an eye, or you can make him gnome style and have no eye. And I'll show you at the end of the video what he looks like both ways. So if you want to know how to make him, stick around. I'll show you how. Thanks for watching. I love you guys. Okay, you're going to start with some faux fur, and you need to make sure it's 2 inches, the pile is 2 inches. Then take the pattern, and you can get it down in the description below and just print it out. And just going to go ahead and cut this square out. Now make sure you're just cutting behind the backing only and not through the faux fur. And this is going to be for the body. Then on each side, we're going to start dragging it in, combing it in really well, because we're going to glue these 2 sides together. We want to make sure that all of our fur is going to be inside of the body. And just run a bead right down the side. And then we're just going to flip the other side over to that side and glue it together. And then we're going to support this here in a minute as well. Just roll it over into a tube and glue it together. Just make sure the glue dries really good before you start going to the next step. Then you're going to go ahead and take a piece of craft foam, and we're just going to run it right down the center of that seam just to cover it up and give it a little bit more reinforcement. And that's about a 1/2 inch piece of craft foam. Then we're going to turn it right side out, and then open up the section where you just glued. We're going to open it up. We're going to run a bead of glue right down that center piece, and we're going to glue that fur together. And this will make it completely solid, and you won't see any more of the seam on your piece. Then you're going to take a 3-inch circle, and you're going to cut it out, and we're going to put this on the bottom. Now make sure before you glue, when you put this on the bottom, you got everything tucked inside, and your fabric on this side is tucked in as well. And make sure that your fur, that you are at the bottom, at the top of the fabric, not the bottom of the fabric, because you want to make sure that your fur flows downward. Okay, then we're just going to start gluing it together and pulling the pins out as we go. Now we're going to put some weighted beads in a sock. So on this step right here, don't worry so much if you don't get it exactly perfect, because it's not going to have any place for the beads to come out, because we are going to put them in a sock. But just make sure that you get it glued in there pretty well. And then go ahead and turn it right side out. Just kind of fluff it up a little bit. Then I'm going to take a 2.8-inch styrofoam ball, and I'm going to cut it in half. And this is what I'm going to put on the bottom. Now you don't want to skip this step. You want to roll your foam on your cutting board or whatever you're using, because you want to make sure it's small enough to go into that tube. And you want to make sure that you do put something that's styrofoam on the bottom, because we are going to use it to attach the legs. Now you could use a pool noodle if you want to, or some kind of a floral styrofoam. Just make sure that you do put something in the bottom so that we can push the legs into the body when we get ready to do that. And then I'm just going to take a sock. I'm going to put it all the way down in the bottom, and I'm just going to fill it with about 3/4 of a cup of weighted beads. You don't need a lot of weighted beads, because the way we're going to attach the legs, he's going to pretty much set up all by himself anyways. Okay, then I'm going to go ahead and cut off just about by the heel area on this, and I'm going to put a rubber band around it just to hold those beads inside. Just go all the way down where the top of the beads are and put a rubber band around them, but leave the top excess fabric up, because we are going to put a styrofoam ball in the top here too, so we can make his head. Just go down to where the weighted beads are and tie that off. And then I'm going to take a 2.3-inch styrofoam ball, and I'm just going to put it right in the top, and that's what's going to make his head. And we're going to do a separation between his body and his head here in a minute. But just make sure you get it pushed all the way down in there, because we are going to glue the top part of that sock closed, and you want to make sure that it's pushed down in there far enough so we can close up the entire body as well. And then just go ahead and put some glue around there on the top, and just glue that sock right down onto that piece of styrofoam ball. Okay, then we're going to do it's a little bit of sewing. You don't even have to sew this part if you don't want to, but we are going to do a casing around the top to draw it in. So, and then we're going to glue that down. Now you could, if you just took your time, pulled it on in and glued the top without doing the casing, but this was a little bit easier than just doing it that way. And I'm using a little bit of a heavier thread. It's more like an upholstery thread. But just go ahead and just go in and out all the way around, you know, in maybe 1/4 inch stitches until it's completely sealed. And just kind of gather it up there, and then we're going to glue it in. We're going to glue it shut as well. So just go ahead and tie that off. And then we're just going to put a little bit of glue down inside of there just to make sure that it is sealed. Okay, next we're going to find the separation between where you just put that ball in and the rest of the body, and we're going to separate the fur. So the head part will go up and then the body part will go down. And then we're going to tie a string around it to make that separation there. And just kind of tie that pretty tight because you want it to kind of pull in a little bit more. And then go ahead and take your comb and just kind of comb it out to make sure that none of that fur got stuck up underneath there. Just sharpen 2 1/4 inch by 6 inch dowel sticks, and then we're going to mark them at 2 1/4 inches. And then just go ahead and cut those off. And we're going to be making the hooves now. Okay, then we're going to take those 2 sticks and we're going to mark down at the bottom 1 inch from the bottom. And that's the part that's going to go into our leg, and the other part's going to go into our styrofoam that's in our body. And just going to cut some strips of foil, and we're just going to glue them on and roll them up. And you're going to make sure that you stay below the 1 inch mark there. And it is going to hang over the bottom. We're going to fold all that up here in a minute. And we are going to roll it up until it's about the size of between a dime and a nickel. So probably about a 1/2 inch. You want it kind of beefy because his hooves need to be pretty good size because his body's a pretty good size as well. And just kind of push it together until it's, you know, pretty solid. And using foil inside of your clay really strengthens your project, and you have less risk of it breaking. But you want to make sure that both of your pieces end up being exactly the same size. Okay, then we're going to take some oven baked clay and we're just going to roll 2 of them into 1 inch balls. Just make sure you get both of them exactly the same size. And then we're just going to take the palm of our hand and we're just going to flatten them out. And then go ahead and start shaping them like a hoof. Kind of come to a point in the front, just a blunt point. And then we're just going to take our foil and we're just going to push it right down inside of here, just right in the center. And just kind of make your point come out a little bit farther and do the same thing with the other one. And then we're going to cut a little slit in the middle to give a definition between his toe area. Just make sure they're exactly the same. And then just go ahead and put your little slit there all the way down to the bottom. Okay, then we're going to pull them out a little bit and we're going to put some Bake Bond glue in here before we bake them. Now we're going to have to bake these at 275 degrees for 15 minutes, but you're going to wait until we finish we're going to do the front hooves here in a minute. We can bake them all at one time. Okay, for the front hooves, we're going to take 2 pieces of wire and we're going to cut them on 4 inches in length. And we're going to go ahead and roll the bottom of them in a circle and then bend them up. We're kind of making like a little foot. So just roll the end and then bend them upward. And then we're going to take some foil on these and we are going to glue them in. And then we're just going to start rolling these into like a ball. And you just want to go ahead and get the whole thing covered and just make it into the shape of a ball. And you want it probably about, I'm going to say maybe an inch is about how big those are. And then we're going to cover them with the clay, and then we're going to shape them. Just kind of make sure that when you finish, that they are similar in size to the first two that we did. Okay, just kind of really push that foil solid. Actually, they end up being about 3/4 of an inch. Okay, then we're going to take some of that same clay and we're going to roll it up into 2 1-inch balls, just like we did on the first time. And then go ahead and push your part down in there, and then just start pulling it around it till it's covered up. Now, make sure you do put a point on this one as well, because we are going to split the toe in the minute here. Just keep playing with it till you get it completely sealed in. And then we're going to go ahead and do that same split right down the middle. And then you're going to bake both of these, or all 4 of these, at 275 degrees for 15 minutes. Next, we're just going to make his horns, and I'm just going to roll some clay into a log, and I'm just going to cut it in half, and I'm just going to curl up both ends. And this is probably about a 3/8 inch round piece, and just make sure that you have points on both ends. Then just cut it in half, and then just curl up that one side. And then we're going to run a piece of wire through it just to make sure it stays in. Now you may have to glue your wire in after the fact, because mine did slip out a little bit, but you just make sure that you do glue it in a little bit when you get done. Just kind of figure out about how long you want them and about how wide you want them. You can make them as long or as wide as you want. This just worked for me. Just kind of run it through there, and then we can shape it again here in a second after you get that wire put in there. And then once you bake these at 275 degrees for 15 minutes, they will be real hard. Just kind of roll it out to kind of make it smooth again. Curl your edges up, and then just make sure that they're both exactly the same size. And then just bake them. Next, we're going to start with 2 pieces that are 2.5 inches wide by 1.5 inches tall, and that's what we're going to go ahead and cover our back legs with, or our back hooves with. Just wrap it around on the 2.5 inch side, and then just go ahead and glue it in the back. And then when you get that glued down, we're going to open it up right there, and we're going to put a bead of glue right down the center and squeeze that shut. That way you will have a complete circle there. And then go ahead and close the top up as well. And then we're also going to lift up the bottom part by the hoof, and we're going to glue the fur to the hoof as well. Just want to make sure that all of this is pretty secured, and then go ahead and open up the front so you can see the hoof. And then go ahead and put a bead around the bottom part and push it right back down. And do the same thing for the other one. And I started with a 12 by 12 inch piece of faux fur, and I'll give you the link for the one I got. I got it from Etsy, but you didn't even use a complete, the whole thing. So just remember, if you have a 12 by 12, you got plenty. Okay, next we're just going to attach our legs. Now go ahead and do a separation between the top part of the body and the head, and that way you can kind of get a feel exactly where you want to put those. And I'm just going to come down on the bottom part, and I'm just going to come in at a diagonal a little bit up into the styrofoam that's inside of the body. And I'm sorry I got out of the camera a little bit on here, but you're kind of going at a diagonal upwards, and I'll show you here in just a second. I was trying to push it in there, and I got it out of focus a little bit. But when I put in the second one, you'll see, just make sure his toe does sit up straight. But you are coming in kind of at a diagonal, and you'll see on this one how I did that. because you want his feet to sit on both sides where he sits up straight and his toes are facing upward. And then go ahead and take it out. We're just going to go ahead and glue them in. Just make sure that when you glue it in that the toe is facing upward. Okay, for the front legs, we're going to measure at 2¼ inches high by 2 inches wide, and we're going to cut 2 of those out. Just cutting behind the faux fur only, and then once you get them cut out, just go ahead and clean all the excess fur off. Okay, then we're just going to take them, we're just going to fold them in half and glue down the side. Now we're gluing down on the 2¼ inch side. And then go ahead and open them up in the back. And we're just going to run a bead down there on that seam, and then we're just going to glue those 2 sides together. And that will keep you from seeing any seams while you're doing this. Okay, next we're just going to make a loop on the back part of these wires. Just make it go from the front to the back, a loop. This is how we're going to attach it to the body. And then we're going to go ahead and put our legs through our fur and go ahead and glue the top down, and then you're going to glue the bottom down as well, just around the inside edge on the bottom. And just make it where you can see his foot. And then do the same thing for the other one. Okay, next we're going to run a string through one of these. And then you're going to go ahead and take your piece and you're going to separate again the head from the body. So go ahead and comb it so you have a separation, and we're going to wrap this around right between the head and the body. Just get it opened up real good, and then we're just going to put it to one side and we're going to tie it real tight. Tie it off in a knot, and then we're going to do the same thing with the other side of the foot or the other foot, and then we're going to glue them to the body. Just make sure you get them tied in there pretty tight, but make sure that their feet do touch the ground in the front. Okay, now we're going to lift up the legs and we're going to separate the fur underneath them. And we're going to separate the fur on the leg itself. Just make sure that your foot is facing forward. Separate the hair on the back, and then just go ahead and put a bead of glue right down the center there and hold that till it dries. And then do the same thing with the opposite side. Just kind of evenly space them across the front. And do the ears, and just take your pattern and we're going to cut 2 of the pieces out of a felt. So just a tan colored felt that kind of contrasts with your fur. And then we're going to cut 2 of them out of the fur also. Okay, next I'm just taking some thinning shears. I'm just going to thin the hair out just a little bit on for the ears. Okay, then I'm going to comb all my pieces to the center. I'm going to run a bead of glue down here, and I'm going to put my backing on here like this. You just make sure that all your hair gets in there real well on both sides. Just kind of tuck it all in and then glue that down. Then we're going to turn it right side out here in a little bit. Just make sure that you do get this glued good. And then go ahead and trim the hair out of there, and then we're going to turn it right side out. If you have pliers, it works a lot easier. And then just make sure all the hair is out of there. And then go ahead and finish shaping it out with your pliers. And then I decided I was going to cut it off just a little bit shorter because they were a little bit long. So I'm going to go ahead and cut off another about 1/4 of an inch off the bottom. And do the same exact thing, same thing with the other ear. Okay, then we're going to take some dowel sticks and we are going to cut them just to length. We want at least 1 inch to go inside of our styrofoam and about 1 inch to go into the ear itself. So I'm going to cut these off about 2 inches each. And I just went ahead and sharpened one side of them already with a pencil sharpener. Okay, and then we're just going to take the blunt end and we're going to glue it inside the ear. Just kind of center it in there. Just put a line of glue right down the center. And then we're going to squeeze it shut and glue it closed at the end as well. So just put a little bit of glue inside of there and just kind of squeeze it in. And then do the same thing with the other one. Okay, then I'm just going to take my scissors. I'm going to come down about 1.5 inches from the very top. I'm just going to poke a hole in the side, and I'm just going to stick my ear right in the side. Just make sure that you got them even on both sides. And you need to leave a little space at the top so that you have room to put the little horns. And then just poke them in there, and then just we'll glue them in here in a second. Okay, then we're going to go ahead and just take them out and we're going to glue them in. Just make sure you open it up a little bit so you can and find the same hole, because sometimes when you're messing with this fur, it's really hard to find the hole that you poked in there. And then just glue this other one in as well. And you can see I couldn't find where I had that hole, so kind of watch as you're pulling it out. Okay, next I'm going to go ahead and take an X-Acto knife and I'm just going to cut a hole into the upper part right above the ear to put his little horns. And then do the same thing on the other side. Just make sure that they're even on both sides. Okay, then we're going to go ahead and take them out and we're going to go ahead and glue them in. You want to put a little bit of glue inside the hole and you want to put a little bit of glue on the horn itself as well. And do the same thing for the opposite side. We're just going to take a 1.8-inch styrofoam ball, cut it in half, and then we're just going to start squeezing it. You want to squeeze it the long way to kind of make it a little bit more narrow. And then we're going to take some felt, and we're just going to start covering it up. Now, you want to pull it tightly as you do it because you don't want any wrinkles in this. So just start at one side, and as you're gluing, pull it to get at the same time. Go ahead and do the 2 long sides, and then we'll do the 2 short sides. And if you kind of take your time on this, you can pull it pretty snug and you won't have any wrinkles on it. Just kind of really pull it and let it dry in between and keep going around till you have it completely sealed in. Just pull it pretty tight. You can get this pretty smooth. And then we're just going to cut all the excess off the back, and we're just going to glue it down to the styrofoam itself. Just make sure it's pretty flat. Okay, next I'm just going to take a little sliver of a craft foam, and this is what I'm going to use for his mouth. Then I'm going to take these little push-in pins, or little black push-in pins, and I'm going to mark exactly where his eyes are going to go. And then I'm going to take an X-Acto knife, and I'm going to poke a hole in there and then glue these in. Kind of make them, just kind of push them apart a little bit, and then just take your X-Acto, poke your hole, and then we're just going to add a little bit of glue to put into each one of those. And this is for his nose. And once you get them exactly where you want them, we're going to go ahead and take them back out, and we're just going to glue them in. These are just little paper brads is what they are. And then I'm just going to take some glue and just lightly glue onto this piece here and glue it around to it for his mouth. Just don't put too much glue because you don't want to see it. Okay, next I'm just going to take another one of those little dowel sticks, sharpen it, and this is about 1.5 inches. I'm just going to push it right into the back of my styrofoam. I'm going to glue it in, and this is how I'm going to attach it to his face. Just going to take my X-Acto knife. I'm going to open it up in the front part there. I'm just going to poke a hole in there. I'm going to add glue. I'm just going to put his nose right in there. And then I'm just going to put a little bit of glue up underneath it. Now I'm going to finish these out 2 different ways, and I'm going to show you the difference. This one, first of all, is going to be like a Gnome Highland Cow with no eye. Now I'm going to show you also what it looks like if you want to add an eye. I'm just going to go ahead and part his hair to the side, and I'm just going to poke a hole in here with my X-Acto knife, and I'm just going to add one of these little doll eyes to it. And I got these at on Amazon. I can give you the link for those as well. But that's what it's going to look like if you were to add an eye to him. So you can do it either way. And then I'm just going to go ahead and glue the eye in. Okay, and this is how he looks like with the eye. Let me know in the comments which one you like better, with the eye or without the eye. If you like these kind of videos, be sure and give me a like. Be sure to come back, subscribe, and ring that bell so you can be notified when I have a new video upload. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it.